Hello, Virgo. There's a pull you've been feeling lately, something inevitable winding its way toward you no matter how you zigzag. Destiny doesn't announce itself with trumpets and fanfare. It whispers through synchronicities, shows up in recurring dreams, plants itself in chance encounters that feel anything but random. And right now, those whispers might be getting louder, harder to dismiss as mere coincidence. Okay, certain paths have magnetism that defies rational explanation. You resist, pivot, choose differently, yet somehow you keep circling back. Different scenery, different timing, but the same essential crossroads. The same fundamental question demanding an answer you've been postponing. And that postponement, it might be reaching its natural expiration. What I'm tuning into isn't punishment or cosmic coercion. It's it's more like gravitational force. The way rivers find oceans regardless of which route they take. Obstacles change the journey's shape, but not its ultimate destination. You could be approaching that kind of convergence point now, where all your detours, all your careful maneuvering, all your strategic avoidance finally leads you exactly where you were always heading. Not because your choices didn't matter, but because some choices are woven into the fabric of your trajectory, regardless of which thread you pull. That's what fate actually means. Not absence of free will, but recognition that certain experiences are non negotiable parts of your soul's curriculum. Hold on, let's sit with this for a moment. Here's what makes something feel fated rather than chosen: repetition, the same themes appearing across different contexts, the same type of person showing up wearing different faces, the same opportunity presenting itself through multiple channels until you finally pay attention. The universe is persistent with its lessons. And when you dodge one iteration, it simply rearranges circumstances and tries again. Different packaging, same core invitation, until eventually you recognize the pattern and stop running or run headlong into it despite your best evasion tactics. Either way, encounter happens. What keeps showing up in your life no matter how many times you walk away? Let me tell you about the anatomy of fated experiences. They often involve elements you can't control, meeting aspects of yourself you haven't fully integrated, external inevitability colliding with internal resistance. And that collision creates the exact friction needed for transformation. You don't get to choose the classroom, but you do get to choose how you engage with the curriculum. Kicking and screaming, with curiosity, in complete denial. Each approach leads to different texture of experience, but the fundamental lesson remains consistent. And that lesson might be closing in, whether you're ready or not. Here's what I'm also sensing: this fated element could involve a person, someone whose presence in your life feels both inevitable and destabilizing. You might have tried creating distance, establishing boundaries, convincing yourself the connection isn't significant. Yet they orbit back, or you find yourself thinking about them at random moments, or circumstances keep engineering proximity. Soul contracts don't honor human timelines. They unfold according to readiness you can't always consciously perceive. And when both parties reach the right frequency, The reunion or encounter or collision becomes almost unavoidable, physics masquerading as fate, that physics might be activating now. Or perhaps this isn't about a person at all. Maybe it's a calling, a vocation, a version of yourself you've been resisting embodying because it requires sacrifices you're not sure you want to make. Yet ignoring it creates its own suffering, the slow ache of unrealized potential. Let's talk about running from fate, because that's what many people do when they sense something inevitable approaching. They construct elaborate avoidance strategies, stay busy enough to ignore the pull, rationalize away the synchronicities, convince themselves they're making logical choices when they're actually running scared. But running from fate is exhausting. It requires constant vigilance, perpetual energy expenditure, maintaining distance from something that's trying to reach you. And eventually, that exhaustion creates cracks. You drop your guard for one moment, and suddenly the thing you've been avoiding is standing right in front of you. Maybe that moment is approaching, or maybe you're already in it. What would happen if you stopped resisting and simply allowed? Here's what I'm picking up about the mechanism of this fate. It might arrive disguised as something else entirely, wrapped in circumstances that seem coincidental or practical or even unwanted. You think you're dealing with one situation only to discover it's been the vehicle delivering you to the exact encounter you've been avoiding. The universe is sneaky that way, knows your defenses too well to approach directly. So it uses side doors, Trojan horses, situations you'd never suspect contain the exact thing you've been dodging. And by the time you recognize what's happening, you're already in too deep to back out gracefully. Let's see what else is here. I'm sensing something about timing reaching critical mass, like multiple threads that have been weaving independently are suddenly braiding together, creating a rope strong enough to pull you somewhere you've been circling but never quite touching. And once those threads braid, the pull intensifies dramatically, becomes almost physical in its insistence. You feel it in your body, that restlessness, that sense of impending something. Your rational mind might not understand what's building, but your cellular intelligence knows, recognizes the signature of destiny knocking. How loud does that knock need to get before you open the door? What I'm also picking up, some of you might be experiencing dreams or visions related to this fated element. Your subconscious processing information your waking mind refuses to acknowledge, showing you snippets of what's coming or what you're being called toward. Pay attention to those nocturnal messages. They're not random neural firings. They're your deeper self attempting to prepare you to soften the ground, to make the eventual encounter less shocking by introducing themes gradually. But preparation only goes so far. Some experiences must be lived to be understood. Here's something important about fate. It doesn't mean you're powerless, quite the opposite. Fated experiences often require your full agency to navigate. The inevitability lies in the encounter, not the outcome. You will face this thing, but how you face it, what you do with it, who you become through it, those remain entirely yours to determine. Surrender isn't the same as passivity. You can surrender to the encounter while actively engaging with how it unfolds. Stop fighting the inevitability while simultaneously claiming your power within it. That balance is the key. Let me tell you what often happens when people finally stop running from their fate. Relief, strange as it sounds, that constant low grade anxiety of trying to outrun something bigger than you, it dissolves. And in its place comes a different energy, focus, purpose, the capacity to actually deal with what you've been avoiding. Because avoidance consumes more energy than engagement. The monster you're running from always seems larger than the one you turn and face. Not because it shrinks, but because you grow accessing resources you couldn't touch while in flight mode. Maybe it's time to stop running. Turn around, see what's actually there rather than what you've been imagining. How would your life change if you embraced what you've been avoiding? I'm also sensing something about consequences of continued resistance, not punishment, natural outcomes, like trying to hold back a river with your bare hands. Eventually, the water finds another route. And that route might be messier, more destructive than if you'd simply stepped aside and let it flow. Fate will have its way. The question is whether you participate consciously or get swept along unconsciously. Whether you maintain some dignity and direction in the process or arrive at the destination disheveled and disoriented, your choice. Always your choice. But the arrival itself, that part might not be negotiable. Here's what else I'm picking up. This fated element could catalyze massive life reorganization, not just one area shifting everything, adjusting to accommodate the new reality, relationships reconfiguring, priorities reordering, identity itself transforming to match who you're becoming through this encounter. That kind of comprehensive change is terrifying. Makes sense why you'd resist. Who wouldn't hesitate before signing up for total life renovation? But some transformations aren't optional. They're built into your soul's blueprint. And when their time comes, resistance only creates friction, not prevention. The renovation happens regardless. Question is how much you damage yourself fighting the inevitable. What are you protecting by avoiding this fated encounter? Let's talk about grace. Because even within inevitability, grace exists. The way fate unfolds, brutal or gentle, chaotic or choreographed, that has flexibility, and your willingness to work with it rather than against it influences which flavor you experience. Fate partnered with surrender often manifests gracefully. Doors opening, timing, aligning, support, appearing, like the universe saying, "Thank you for finally cooperating here. Let me help." But fate partnered with resistance. That's when things get messy. You still arrive at the destination, just bruised from being dragged there. As I'm closing this reading, I want you to understand something. Whatever's fated for you isn't coming to destroy you, it's coming to complete you, to deliver missing pieces, to activate dormant capacities, to align you with your actual purpose rather than the one you've been performing. And yes, that completion might feel like destruction temporarily, is less than has hone. Zero hash is greater than, because old forms must dissolve before new ones can emerge. But dissolution isn't death, it's metamorphosis. And metamorphosis requires trust that something better waits on the other side of the breaking down. So if you feel something inevitable approaching, if you sense fate tightening its circle around you, breathe, ground. Prepare not by building walls, but by cultivating flexibility. The thing you cannot run from, it's not your enemy, it's your assignment. And assignments, when completed, lead to graduation. You're ready. Even if you don't feel ready, especially if you don't feel ready, thank you for being here. If this resonated, share in the comments what feels inevitable in your life right now. Are you still running, or have you turned to face it? Fate doesn't need your permission, but it appreciates your partnership.